bien, Webbe. Welcome to Messy Kitchen again with FP&B, which is Frank's Pager in Person. Looking for something that's going to show you how to make a magnificent meal in 5 minutes or less, then this is not the page you need to be on. Because I want to make sure that you know what you're doing step by step. Today we are going to try our chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes, and the vegetable has not been selected yet for this evening. We have right now, this is cube steak. If you get it down right, it should take about an hour, mostly because of the potatoes. It takes it a while to cook through. Our first directions were to get your steaks out. Now I patted them down at one time, but it states that you need to pat it down a second time because the cube steaks that hold a lot of juice. Just go ahead, take a paper towel, take a napkin, take whatever you need, and look at all that moisture that's coming out. Now the reason I am speculating that you need to get the moisture out is because this is going to be a double batter. It's going to be a batter with your flour base, and there's also an egg batter. It does call for whipping cream, but I do not have it. No, wait. Oh yeah, it calls for buttermilk. I don't have the buttermilk, but I'm going to go ahead and use half and half. I'm sure with the buttermilk, you'd get a better flavor. So just go ahead and dab this off. After you're done dabbing, of course, you're working with raw meat. You need to wash your hands so it doesn't transfer to the other food. Look at this. Look at all that moisture that just came up off of here. This is what you want. Okay. I like my touch stink. And it's saying that you need to go ahead and put some salt and pepper on both sides of your meat. I'm going to use regular salt for this. We're going to put this off to the side since I saved. Okay. Yeah. So next thing we need to do is we got to get our dry mix going for our chicken fried steak. Okay? And I'm just going to kind of go through the step by step. It's been a while since I've made it, but you need to have a couple of dishes ready for you because you're going to go ahead and dredge the chicken fried steak in these, just like you dredge your fried chicken, or what was the other thing I dredged? Oh, the chili rellenos. When you double batter, it's called dredging, and it calls for you to do your dry mix first. So what we're going to do is have a cup and a half of your flour. White flour is absolutely fine. There's other flours out there if you want to be gluten-free, and I don't think this is a half, I think it'll work. So I need to have 3 of these.
2 and 3, okay?
Now it calls for 2 teaspoons of fresh ground pepper. So we have our teaspoons right here. Let's verify. Teaspoons. 1 and 2. Then we are going to do 2 teaspoons of kosher salt or sea salt. I have kosher salt here, so that's going to work fine. Again, 2. 1, 2. Alright. Then the next thing we're going to need is the smoked paprika. Not a lot of people carry this on hand. Paprika can be spicy, but this is smoked, so it kind of gives a little bit of that barbecue flavor, is what my guess is on that. So it's a half of a teaspoon. So let's get our half of a teaspoon of smoked paprika. Alright, that is done with my little owl. Then we are going to have half of the onion powder and the garlic powder. So I have my onion powder here. Usually I put more in, but follow the directions, see how this goes. And time. It's kind of like the same basis I do with my fried chicken anyway, so it's not that hard to remember. And then you're going to have your half a teaspoon of your baking soda and your baking powder. And they are both used primarily to get a rise out of your breading. So there's 1, and then there is 2. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and preheat my oven because it specifies to do so. I'm just going to go ahead right now before I forget. I'm going to put on 250. To start our potatoes, I'm going to do the mashed potatoes differently than before. Since I learned a little bit something new, we're going to try it out. Kind of whisk this up.
Just to get a really good mixture, because this is going to be your base. Okay.
Now we're going to work on our wet ingredients.
Our half and half. Ooh, might help. I put on right burn.
Okay. Sorry I didn't have all this done. I think it's kind of important that you know what the actual steps are. I hate it when you see something they say, I'll teach you how to make bread in 5 minutes or less. And, no, there's a lot more detail than that. Okay, so we need 1.5 cups of the buttermilk. So again, we're gonna do 3 because this is a 1/2 cup.
1/2 cup, 1 cup, 1.5 cup. There we go. You have 2 tablespoons of Tabasco. Ah, oh, Douglas. Douglas put the scorpion over there. I'm not using the scorpion, I'm using Tabasco. No one of the scorpion, no. Look at our blooper on the scorpion. That's just bad mojo, man. I ain't doing it. Ever again. Nice try, Douglas.
So they're asking for 2 in the wet wash. How are you supposed to do this? There we go. 1 and 2. Okay. Then it says 2 eggs, fresh eggs. Put a lid on here before I get really stupid and end up spilling shit. I kind of do this because a lot of times I end up like getting shells in there on accident, and I don't want to dig it out of that mess. This one helps me know it is good. Pour that in. This is for your dipping. And just go ahead. Ooh, did you see that? I just saw that.
I got it. Okay, you can whisk this, but be careful. Apparently, you'll have a twister and a tornado here. Don't watch yourself. Holy Toledo. And that one's not breaking. Oh man, I just got spooched by the kitchen police. Alright. Let's just cut it for a second. Oh, so I can clean and we can get the cleaning.
You got your dry mix and your wet mix ready. Your oven is preheating. And now we're going to go ahead and heat the pan up. As I had said many times before, that you want to heat your pan up before you put your oil in. Now for the oil, they do suggest only putting in, well, a cup. The reason for a cup is because they're trying not to deep fat fry it. They just want to kind of fry it up on each side. Now the instructions told me to go ahead and dredge it, put it on the cooking pan, and then put it in the oven for about, I think it's like 15-20 minutes. And then fry it, but I don't know, that seems kind of ridiculous to me. I'm not saying you're wrong on the recipe. I'm saying that from my experience, if we fry it first and then stick it in the oven, it'll come out crisper. We just got to be careful about the breading because it says in the directions it does fall a lot on there. So let us get this heated up. And what the hell am I going to do with that? Okay. And yeah, a cup is this, a cup is that. I'm just going to pour it in there. I had to open up a new one. I'm just going to make sure the can is covered, but not quite as much as I do for the fried chicken. This because we still got to make our gravy on this also, and that's another reason why I think you should have it in the oven last. Have it on low. That way it cooks through, it stays warm, while you're finishing up your potatoes, and you got your gravy still to do. It just makes sense to me, and I don't know what we're gonna do for sides, but we'll figure that out in a minute. All right. So we are gonna just give it a few minutes. Let this heat up. It should take approximately 10 to 15 minutes to be where you want. And try it on almost 6 to 7 right in between there. And then we'll check and see. If you have a thermometer, and it's really good. I have the meat thermometers, but this is specifically for your oil thermometers. A lot of people do have deep fat fryers. And what is that, Fry Daddy now? What is that? I don't understand. Anyway, but when you're doing something like this at home, it's really good to have your thermometer. When you take a temperature, it has a clip. If you have a pan, it'll clip on there for you. But if not, you want to make sure you take the temperature right in the middle. And don't hit the pan, because if it hits your pan, it's going to give off a different degree on there. So we've had the grease is ready. You can tell it says it's an iron pan. Well, any pan, you can actually see the steam rising up. It was a little too hot. You shouldn't need to have that much smoke, so I just turned it down a little bit to 6. Now, what they're saying is we're going to do a double dredge on this. So, and then we're supposed to cook each side 2 to 3 minutes. And it stipulates only to do 2 at a time in your fryer. So, do I have my clicker out? Man, okay, make sure you have your handy dandy tongs. But I'm going to do it with my hands. Don't do it with your hands if you don't want to. So we're going to double dredge this. First, you go ahead and put that in the flour. You try to give off some of the excess flour just so it doesn't put too much dripping. And you're going to go ahead and put it here. And then you're going to go back to the flour again. And I'm not going to do what the instructions say. I'm going to fry it first and then I'm going to put it in the oven. Okay, there's the first one, and let's do the second one. here we go. Just stick them in. Woo! Yeah, that's a good crisp. That oil was a little too high. So when we do this again, we'll make sure that we don't have it up as high, and it should be fine. I mean, it's practice. We've never done this recipe before, but it looks like it has a really good crisp on it already. And now for the oven, Pedro lost us for the oven. I am going to put it on a pan, but I have a rack. It will work better if you have a rack. If you don't worry about it. It's not 100% necessary, but it helps when I put it in the oven that the grease will drop down, and then the heat will go ahead and keep it crunchy, and it'll cook the rest of the way in. Let's check this. Okay. Just gonna have the one. And it's burnt, who cares, you know, it burned up a little bit, but the other side came out really good. And remember, you're going to have gravy. Who the hell is going to see? The gravy's the main point anyway, right?
I never let them go.
And I usually clean up after, no, I don't clean up after myself. Who am I kidding? I'm going to let this dish pile get high until I'm done, and then I'll do it in the morning before I start working. So, yeah, I'm not going to lie to you about that, okay? Now we're just going to let this sit here. Hopefully it's not going to burn or get as crisp as the other ones did. But remember, your oven should be preheating right now, and I'm preheating on 250. Wow. Okay, I'm going to check my potatoes. They're not even close to done, so I'm actually, I wonder if it's going to have the wrong thing. Probably not. And I didn't cut them up in half like I usually do. I was trying to use a different direction about keeping them full. Something about if you cut them up really fine and then you boil them in the water, they become more mushy because you want some of that starch. I'll explain that when we do the mashed potatoes again. Anyway, so let us check this out. Whoa, that about cooked in half. I'm just going to put aside. And I can understand how these look a little brown. And again, it's all because I have the heat up too high, alright? But, remember that lovely word I like to say with gravy? Tidbits, tidbits, tidbits. I have tidbits in here. Here's the problem, Mom. Since I had the heat on too high, I cooked that quicker than I wanted to. So here's what you'll probably have to do if you do the mashed potatoes. Start your mashed potatoes first. Wait for about a half an hour. During that half an hour, do your prep, get to go. And don't do it till these are halfway done. Because right now, then I'm going to have to sit on this. It's going to stay in the oven. It may work out. We'll see. Because we still got the gravy to do. But I'm definitely going to turn this down for now. Because I'm not even going to touch the gravy. The gravy only takes about 10 to 15 minutes. So while this is in the oven and this is cooking, I'm going to give this at least another... Okay, generally, some of the people will say it only takes about 20 to 25 minutes to cook your potatoes. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. Because anytime I've ever had to make potatoes, it takes like 45 minutes to an hour until those puppies are done. So don't do the snap, instantaneous. Because the only way you can tell, which I've explained this before, is poke your fork in there. Look at, and it's hard as a freaking rock. You want to be able to easily pierce your potatoes. This is not done. So I went ahead and I turned this up. You're going to take your meat. It's bloody and it's red, but don't worry about it because it's going to sit in here in your oven and slow cook until we're ready. And this meat, if you didn't look, the cube steaks, they're not that thick. They're actually quite thin. So you won't have to worry about it. Anyway, we're going to stop and we'll be right back at you here when the potatoes are a little bit closer to what we need, okay?
Ooh, Poppets, we're back from a small break. Ooh, did you guys see I was wearing my Friends socks? Look at that. I love Friends. Ooh, by the way, Paige, you forgot to say hi today to everybody. She got me the entire set of Friends from my birthday. I got it. Durant. My band! Durant! Oh, wait, I did that wrong. Break it down. Even white those factory things. Baby got back. Cheers.
Okay, so now we have to worry about the gravy. I checked the potatoes, and they're getting a lot softer, which means they're getting closer to me. I do have it on high, let's make sure. Okay, now here's the thing about gravy and the oil. There's way too much oil in there. I mean, personally, I think there's way too much oil. So again, get a safe dish of some sort, and I am going to go ahead and just drain a little bit of that oil out. Yeah, we want it delicious and fat, but not heart attack fat. So now, after that, I do have butter. I think you're, I don't.
Butter, I know. I don't care. I like butter. You know, just whatever. You do what you want. You don't have to add the butter. And butter's like my oh yum. Who does not like butter? And where is my favorite spoon? Nowhere to be found.
Go ahead, I'm going to do this. Now, and again, I'm not going by directions, so I'm just going to sprinkle some in there, like so. I'm thinking that's probably about a couple of tablespoons full. Okay, I'm going to use a little bit of the whipping cream. They do call for the whipping cream in this direction, in this recipe, so I just put a little bit in there. And I'll post how much they say to have on there. And then I'm going to do half and half. I did not want it all to be heavy whipping cream.
Now, sprinkle a little bit. This will all get nice and thick. You want to have your
Secret is my chicken bouillon. I'm believing that is maybe a tablespoon. This just helps with the flavor. Now, it is salty, so usually when you use this base, you won't have to add a lot of salt, but just taste it off and on. Use regular salt, kosher salt. Sea salt is really, really strong. I don't know if I've actually used that. Ooh, look at that. Walk away for a second. It starts boiling. And also, they're asking for some pepper in here. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and put some pepper. And we like a lot of pepper, so. And I believe theirs was only a teaspoon of pepper and a teaspoon of salt. Oh, that's getting nice and thick. And that is from the whipping cream and the half and half. Now, since this is going over really well, I'm just going to turn this down because it is almost to the thickness. And again, if it gets too thick, and I'm thinking it's a little thicker than I want it to be, either add your half and half. I would not suggest adding whipping cream. That's just going to make it thicker. Or you can just use whatever milk you have on hand. There we go.
The color is exactly where we want it to be. It doesn't look like a part of the restaurants. A lot of different restaurants get different parts of steak. They enhance colors, and it either comes with ham or it comes with powder. There are very few restaurants anymore that certainly make great white meat. And that is really, really good. We will taste this. Just going to check those potatoes.
Okay, I'm believing we have about another, I'm going to say 5 to 10 minutes on those potatoes. So I'm going to get everything prepped and ready for those. Gravy should be done. We're going to do a quick taste test also, me and Paige.
What up? What up, home fries? Alright, get this started. So we don't know if we need to add any spices. Come on, somebody take your food. Taste your food.
Creamy and salty. Very salty? Okay, so if it's really salty, sometimes you just add more milk and then add more pepper.
No, it's like the garlic salt.
I didn't. Well, yeah, we had garlic salt in with the flour.
But that's just me.
Oh, I know. Let's see. It might just need more pepper. I did have garlic salt. Not salt though. I had garlic powder and onion powder in there.
Maybe it's the onion. There's
It's
right
the
there.
onion. It's not salty. It's just the flavor's overpowering. The onion and the garlic flavor.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
powder's
that's what it
overwhelming.
is.
Yeah. Or your potatoes, then everything should come together nicely.
Whatever, man. My mommy told me that my palate was special.
It's very odd. A lot of cooks smoke and drink while they're cooking. And I wonder why that's why they make everything so overpowering at times. So that's why they're so good. Have you ever noticed that? Yeah. Ooh, a couple more minutes. We're just gonna sit here and talk and ramble while we're waiting for that. And these seriously are almost done. Just a couple more minutes. When you poke it, it's not holding. See, it's falling off. But I just want it a little bit more before we go ahead and whip that out.
And then something like this happens. What? Son of a- Anyway.
So the potatoes are almost done. Like I said, we're going to do something different. The gravy is pretty much done. You want to just have that on low. Just mix it up every once in a blue moon. You don't want it to burn. Woohoo! Go on the chucha. Gracias, El Peltor. Pager. Okay, the potatoes are ready. They're absolutely having no problem hooking onto that fork. So I'm going to shut off this burner. Yeah, I'm saying that because I'll forget if I don't. And come over here. I'm going to get my sink, messy kitchen sink, to get hot. I'm going to dump these in and I'm going to rinse it out. You rinse, you don't burn. You're fine. Let's rinse it off with hot water. From the other direction, it states it's going to be fluffier than before. So we're going to see if this trick actually works. Now it says hot or warm water. That looks pretty good. Let's get the excess water off. Dump it into my trusty potato pan. Yeah. And let's come over here. So what am I going to do? I'm going to put butter. That's not enough butter for me. Butter. Yeah, I should add cheese. No, don't put cheese in there. I was just way over and beyond. Why don't you add cheese in your potatoes? Okay, so we're going to put our butter in there. We're going to put a little bit of salt and pepper as well for a tad bit of flavoring, but you don't need a lot. The gravy and meat's going to take care of that anyway. It's just kind of a habit. Put in my 1950s blender. Ruh-roh. I came up with a problem. I'm going to have to go over here because all my bags are taken care of. Alright, we're going to try this once again. And I'm going to grab the rest of my half and half. I'm going to put a little bit of whipping cream in here. Now I'm going to put a little bit of half and half in here. And then we are going to go ahead and blend this together. Okay. I'm just going to take some of the sides down so we can get those beat as well. It does seem to not be so watery and pasty. Okay, dinner is almost done. We are going to taste test the potatoes to see if we have any difference on it. And then we are going to go, you, me, everybody else, we're going to clean up just a little bit, and then we are going to plate up. I want to see if it's any different than how we usually do it.
Is it easier to blend?
Mm-hmm.
They're a little airier. Yeah. Perhaps
They are?
fluffier?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Looking at it, it looks fluffier. Because I think before it seemed a little bit more pasty. That's just my opinion. But I didn't really know the difference between it, so. Yep. Yeah. It's not as pasty. And by not cutting them up, it wasn't as watery, which made it pasty. And then we rinsed it off with the warm/hot water before we blended it. It worked a lot better. It really did. So that's a keeper, my friends. And again, we are just going to put a lid on the top of this. We're going to be right back after we clean up a little bit, and then we're going to plate. All right? Sorry, I'm still laughing. I'm still laughing. Okay, we're going to go ahead and plate everything up. Now, it depends. I don't care how you plate it up. Who cares how you plate it up? I'm just showing you how I plate it up. Now this might not look pretty, but we all have messy kitchens. Doesn't matter anyway, does it? Nah. See you on the flip side, dudes.
Before we get into this, I forgot something very, very important. I need to do a shout out. I'm going to do a shout out to this wonderful girl by the name of Shauna. She wants us to go ahead and do a potato cheese pierogi. I'm going to go ahead and make that for her. But I got a surprise for Shauna. We are going to come up with an episode, and we're going to make our own cheese for this dish. That's right. Milk, sour cream, curds, and all. It's going to take 2 days to make, but it's going to be so awesome. Well, I hope it's going to be awesome. I don't know. But we're going to try it anyway, right? Got a cheesecloth. What's going to hurt? Corn food? Free corn food? You can't talk. What is it? Food porn. That sounds a little weird to me. But, okay, we're going to do food porn. Not the other stuff. Just food. No, not porn with food. Oh, I'm not even going to use that. Just appetizing food that makes you grumble. I don't like food porn. I'm going to get some weird shit over there. Like the comments, call 1-800-NATASHA. We can make your night last all night. Who does that? Get off my channel, weirdo. Ooh, we have 21 subscribers. 100 subscribers, we're gonna get our website. Alright? We got a goal. What did I say? Subscribers? Prescribers? Subscribers? Is there a difference between prescribers and subscribers?